Hello and welcome to lesson 57 of the Learning Guitar series. This is a particularly exciting lesson, if a lesson can be exciting, and a lot of work went into this. It's exciting because we are still discussing diminished, but we are taking some logical concepts. We called those, Martino called them parental forms, and I'm going to explain them to you in the usual logical manner, so hopefully you'll understand where things go and why. And the reason it's exciting is because from diminished chord, we're going to deduce inversions. So in the previous two lessons on diminished chords, we looked at scales, arpeggios. We started to look at playing scales in intervals. This time, instead, we're expanding on chords. And inversions is not only a very interesting topic, a very useful topic. Hopefully, if you follow these lessons closely and you put the time in, your knowledge, your chordal knowledge, is going to improve incredibly. We've done a lot of chords already when we discussed the major modes and that every lesson in between, I think the first 27 lessons or something, you probably learned already a lot of chord shapes and the logic behind them. At the same time, we never covered inversions with such a degree of details like we are about to. Now, one aspect of the study of inversions that needs to be mentioned straight away is it's a long haul. I mean, it's a lot of work in terms of the sheer amount of stuff, and you'll see what I mean in the course of this particular lesson. I tend to compare it to the study of intervals. If you remember, I've been following these lessons from the beginning. Studying intervals, I mean, it's not complicated, second, thirds, etc. But it's a lot of material, So my suggestion is take your time, first of all. And as you know, these lessons, they have like a 3 weeks interval, which is designed for you to kind of look into each topic for like 3 weeks. Because that's how you build muscle memory, photographic memory. I know I repeat myself, but maybe this is for somebody who's seeing this kind of lessons for the first time. So let's discuss, first of all, the logic. So if you remember from the diminished lessons we've done so far, so lesson 56 and lesson 55, we know that diminished chords are symmetrical, which means, I can play this chord. This is like just one of the shapes of diminished chords. And we know that this moves in tonings and half, not only, and the shape actually doesn't change. And so far, so good. We also discovered that this particular chord has potentially 4 root notes. What does that mean? It means that this is not only, for example, A flat diminished. This is also D diminished. This is also B diminished. And this is also F diminished. And as I move it, this is basically 4 inversions of the same chord. So let's say, I don't know, let's take F as a note. So here, this is F diminished and F is over here. When I play this, F is now here. When I play this, F is now here. And when I play this inversion, F is now here. I heard Martino talking about this the first time. To be honest with you, I don't know if this was an approach to the study of inversions, which was, created or introduced before that. And, one thing that at least there is some videos on YouTube where Martino talks about this. Not at the level of details in terms of sheer PDFs that is going to come out of this, and you'll see in a second. Because, it's as I said, it's a lot of material. But what he realized, or anyway, what we can deduce for diminished chord is that by lowering individually each of the notes in the diminished chord, we can derive dominant 7 chords and their inversions. Then major chords, major 7 in this case, because it's a 4-note chord, and the inversions. Minor chords and the inversions. Half diminished chord and the inversions. So we can derive 4 family of chords: major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and half diminished. And the relative inversions, just starting from a diminished chord. I'll show you on paper so you see better what I'm talking about. What I need you to understand from the PDFs that I'm going to show you, or that you can download from Patreon, obviously, if you're a patron in this project. And by the way, thank you to those who are supporting this project on Patreon. There is a PDF with the exercises. So what I'm going to show you, I need you to, if anything, to understand the logic of what's going on, so you see why. That's the important part. And of course, there is a PDF which details the mechanics of practicing this. So let's have a look. Here what I have is diminished chords, and I subdivided in string groups. What I mean is different ways to play a diminished chord using a different bunch of strings. And as you can see, this is like the shape I was just using right now, and the 4 inversions. This is using string 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here we are using 2, 3, 4, and 6, etc., etc. And I created 7 different string groups where you can play. So, like, basically, it's chord shapes you can use to play diminished chords. So this is one of them, for example, but this is also diminished. And again, same property, right? Or this is also just different string groups. And in order to study inversions, there is a reason why I subdivided them like that, because one by one, we're going to go through all of them. As we understood by now, each diminished chord can take 4 names and ask for some magical inversions. As you can see here, you can see the inversion, and I left the name of the notes in this case, so you can see them basically repeating each other. And if you go and check the intervals are always going to be, no matter what you think as a root, the interval are always going to be 1, flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7, which is equal to a 6. Now, if I lower a root note, let's take G, I'm lowering G by a semitone, the resulting chord, this, basically, is actually F sharp 7. Not only, if I lower the G in this first inversion, let's call it that way right now, and now it becomes F sharp, this is also F sharp 7. Same thing, by lowering the G note a semitone, now I have F sharp 7. And by lowering the G a semitone, I obtain this, which is also F sharp 7. So by lowering a single note, I obtained F sharp 7 and 3 inversions of it. Okay? From an intervallic point of view, the moment I make F sharp the root note, as you can see, I have 1, 3, 5, flat 7. That's the dominant 7 chord. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. And I'm correct in saying, okay, this is F sharp 7, because here I'm thinking of it, the root note here, and all the inversions of it. Now, if I use the dominant 7 as a starting point, okay, all I'm going to do now next, and I have dominant 7 and inversions. I'm going to raise now the flat 7 to a major 7. So, as you can see in the following diagram, the flat 7 became a major 7. Now, this is F sharp major 7. And by doing the same, so flat 7 becomes major 7, flat 7 becomes major 7, flat 7 becomes major 7. Now I have, in this case, F sharp major 7 and its inversions across the neck of the guitar. I hope you're understanding the logic of what's going on here. So we took a diminished chord, we lowered the root note, what we thought, we're going to analyze, I don't want to confuse you, but we're going to analyze, we know a diminished chord has got 4 root notes potentially. So we're going to move all of them one by one. In this case, we moved one of them, G, and we obtained F sharp 7 and its inversions. Now, from the deriving chord, and that's why, by the way, that's why I guess Martino called this parental form. It's a bit like having a granddaddy which was our diminished chord, and now this one is the granddaddy and the child is the F sharp 7, right? Now the F sharp 7 is having a couple of kids. The first passage is we took the flat 7, we raised it. So from a dominant 7 chord, now we're getting major 7 chords and all these inversions. Let's go back. So we got the major 7. Now, as I said, daddy here, the dominant 7, I can also use it, instead of raising the flat 7, I can lower the third. And here is the diagram, the resulting diagram. If I lower the third here, I lower the third here, I lower the third here, and I lower the third here, I obtain this. And this is F sharp minor 7. And now I have F sharp minor 7 and 3 inversions of it. By the way, after the third inversion here, now you're basically repeating yourself. So this and this is the same. So we're covering, basically, don't think of this as in fret 0 to 12. This is going through the entire neck. Now, we say that the dominant 7 had 2 kids. Okay? From the dominant 7, we could derive major 7, and from dominant 7, we could derive minor 7. Now, from minor 7, we can lower the fifth. So if I lower the fifth, 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 I obtain half diminished chord. So minor 7, flat 5. In fact, I have 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, and the inversions. So as you can see, starting from the diminished chord, we managed to derive 4 families of chords: major, minor, flat 7, and minor 7, flat 5, and relative inversions. Now remember that each diminished chord can take 4 names, which means it can take 4 root notes. The process above should be applied to all the notes in the chord. So what that means is I started from the idea of taking G and lowering G, but I could have started from lowering B flat instead. And if I lowered B flat here, this will become A7, okay? And again, I would have 4 inversions of A7 and then 4 inversions of A major 7. By raising the flat 7. Then I would have 4 inversions of minor 7 by lowering the third. And then I would have the half diminished by lowering the flat 5. In other words, G diminished is also E diminished, B flat diminished, and D flat diminished. By using the process above, we can derive from G. So by lowering G, we get all F sharp major 7, F sharp minor 7, etc. Lowering the E note, again, E flat, and 4 families of chords. By lowering B flat, I get A, 4 family of chords. By lowering D flat, I get C7 and all family of chords. Now, don't forget that diminished chords, because they take 4 names, and that's also like something that should be intuitive, but because it takes 4 names. And of course, music is 12 keys, not 4 keys. This will cover 4 keys. But if you think about it, here is the other 4 keys. Let's go back to A flat diminished. Here is the other 4 keys. So within 3 frets, I actually have all 12 keys. And the same can be said for all the inversions. Okay? As I said, don't worry about the practicality of it. There is just a PDF for that. We're going to start looking into getting it on the neck of the guitar. For the moment, all I want you to understand is the logic of what just happened and this idea of parental form. Just to recap it once more, I had a diminished chord. In this case, I have, let's say, A flat diminished, which can also be F diminished, can also be B diminished, and it can also be D diminished. But in this case, I'm going to analyze A flat. So from A flat, I lowered the root note. So from A flat, I made this a G. And now the resulting chord looks like this. And this is G7. Now, if I raise the major 7, the flat 7 to a major 7, I get this. And this is G major 7. Let's go back to dominant 7. I'm going to lower the third. I get this. And I get G minor. And I'm going to lower from this shape. I'm going to lower the fifth, which is here. And I get G half diminished. Cute, no? And all the inversions, right? So by using logic, we are basically discovering hundreds of chords, right? Although, bear in mind, when you look at it practically, the actual chord shapes, they are the same for each string groups. You'll see it in the practice. But, these kind of shapes are going to be incredibly recurrent. These are 4 shapes, which is going to cover dominant chords no matter what the key. Of course, the order is going to change. Now, in terms of what we're going to look in terms of practice, as I said, this is a long haul, like intervals. So we're going to look at the practice by string groups. And what I mean by that, let's have a look at the other PDF. So we're going to look at it, first of all, the string group 1, which is basically using string 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is your G diminished. And by lowering the root note, now I have F sharp 7 and the inversions. By raising the 7, I have F sharp major 7, all the inversions. By lowering the third, instead, I'm going to have F sharp minor, all the inversions. F sharp minor 7 flat 5, and all the inversions. In the second page, you're going to still see this diminished chord, but this time we're looking at E diminished. So we're taking this as a root note this time. We're lowering that, and again, we get E flat 7, E flat major 7. When I say, look, the shapes are going to be the same, just in a different place, have a look at this shape here for E flat 7. When you go to G, it's actually the same shape is happening here, right? These 4 shapes, let's say shape, not necessarily the position on the neck, but these 4 shapes. When it comes to this string group, are always going to be just these 4. Just place them in different places. So as we scroll through the PDFs, here we have the third potential root note. So in this case, for example, we have B diminished. We are lowering B diminished and obtaining A7, and here is the inversion, A major, A minor, A half diminished. And here we take the 4th potential root note, in this case D flat or C sharp, and of course we lower that. We go through the process and we obtain C7, C major 7, C minor 7, C half diminished, and all the potential root inversion, all the inversions. So as you can see, the process is very logical, and it's hard work from the point of view, as you will see in a second in the PDF, the fact that we're going to be practicing this inversion, and this is just one string group. In this case, we're adopting string 1, 2, 3, and 4. As you saw at the beginning of the lesson, I highlighted 7 string groups. Probably we're going to take 3, 4 lessons to go through all of them. In this case, I'm only going to, for this particular lesson, we're going to use string group 1, and that's what you will be practicing. And maybe next lessons we're going to do like 2 string groups at a time, possibly, because as I said, it's a lot. Let me show you the practicing PDF so you can see how to practice this on the guitar. So, using A flat diminished, which is also D, B, and F diminished, we derive major, minor, dominant, minor, and half diminished chords and inversion for G, B flat, D flat, and E. All this should be clear. Practice the example below in G, so I lowered basically the A flat to G. It becomes a root note for G7 and then etc. You will notice that the sequence major, 7th, minor, half diminished allows you to move from one chord family to another just by moving one note. Let me explain you this visually. So, in describing the logic of how we go from diminished to 4 different family of chords and the inversions, we took a note from the diminished chord and we derived the dominant 7 chord, and from dominant 7 major 7, or from dominant 7 minor 7, and then from minor 7 half diminished. In practicing, though, it might be more comfortable to start from major 7. In this case, for example, let's take this inversion of G major 7. And if I simply move the major 7, which is here, F sharp, a semitone down, now I'm playing G7. If I lower the third, now I have G minor 7. And if I lower the fifth, I have a G half diminished. So if I start from a major 7 chord, I can walk my way through half diminished by changing one note at a time. And in fact, you can see it here in the PDF. Here I have my major 7. Lowering the major 7, now you have dominant 7. Lowering the third, you have G minor 7. Lowering the 5, G minor 7 flat 5. And here you have an inversion of it. Same concept. Then the second inversion of it, third inversion of it. The next exercise here is focused on practicing inversions. So in other words, they're playing G major 7 and the inversions of it up and down, then G7 and the inversions of it up and down, G minor 7 and the inversions of it up and down. So basically you go up the neck and then back down the neck. And G minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished up and down the neck. Obviously, like, this is just one key. I mean, if you're practicing just G, the family of G chords, probably you'll be good at it. But as we know, the guitar comes in 12 keys. And I think the best way, as usual, to practice things is to look at it from a cycle fourth point of view. So the biggest of exercises you will find on this PDF is this, where we're starting from the key of C. We're playing C major, all the inversions and down. Then the fourth of C, which is F, so we're playing F, up and down, B flat, E flat. Basically, these are all major chords, 12 keys, all the way to here. Okay, from C to G. In fact, after G, you can go back to C. C is the fourth of G. This way, you will have practiced all 12 keys. The same thing you have here, dominant 7, 12 keys. The same you have here, minor 7, 12 keys. And the same you have here, minor 7, flat 5, 12 keys. Now, as you can see, it's a lot of work, and to be honest with you, like, probably the best exercise you can do to learn this, at first at least, is this last exercise I just showed you. Just playing inversions on the neck, up and down in cycle of fourths. This is string group 1. You have in this exercise, which is basically these 4 strings and the chords that basically derive from this shape. In the next part dedicated to inversions, we're going to look at a couple of more string groups. I will not go through the exercises and stuff, show it to you. I mean, to be honest, it's not necessary. The PDF is really, really explanatory as it is. Plus, I don't want to waste your time. But as I said, maybe do it to a metronome, do it slowly. The chords, you don't have to, you can play them as block chords as you move up. So, for example, I can play, say the inversions for G major, starting from the lowest part of the neck. I can go like this, and this is another inversion. This is another inversion. And this is the third one. And you can play them as block chords and then go back down, right? Or also arpeggiated sounds kind of nice. Particularly like this inversion, for example, for a major 7 chord. I mean, it's a very nice sound. So as you're doing this, something you want to pay maybe like a little bit of attention. Play very slowly, but try and play metronomically if you can, as opposed to, rubato. And this is it for this lesson. I mean, as I said, I'm particularly excited about these studies because, as you know, as guitar players, for us, for as much as playing guitar solos is a lot of fun, we spend most of the time accompanying, playing chords. And beside the amount of chords that we studied in the first 30 lessons of this project, lots of very useful chord shapes. Inversions are, basically how do they say in English? The cherry on top of the cake. In this case, we're doing 4 notes, chords, and their inversions. In a way, we're starting from the hardest one, because when in the future we will study augmented chords, so which are 3 notes chords. Also, in the case, we'll use this kind of technique to derive parental forms, so inversion triads, basically triads inversions. So in a way, there is a lot more work into this, I guess, than that. But the concept is going to be the same. I hope everything is clear, and of course, I wish you. In this case, I wish you good luck. It's a lot of work, and if something is unclear, anyway, there are explanations in the PDFs. The PDFs are always available to the Patreon supporters, obviously. And if you're not a Patreon supporter, consider the option. Is not expensive at all, and consider supporting this project in a more active manner. And thank you for the subscription on YouTube. Is always appreciated. I wish you good work and enjoy playing guitar. Thank you. Bye.